Good morning, my dearest students. I welcome you all to a lecture on Purloined letter written by the American writer Edgar Allan Poe. So this particular topic, the Purloined letter, which is written by Edgar Allan Poe, is included in the paper number 67 of the CBCS syllabus. It is also included in American literature. Today we'll discuss about Edgar Allan Poe and the genre in which this particular story, the Purloined letter, included. We'll discuss about it. So let's begin our discussion. Edgar Allan Poe was born in the year 1809 and he died somewhat at a very young age of 40 in the year 1849. And in his 40 years of lifespan, he made a very permanent place for himself in American literature as well as world literature. He is known to be a short story writer, a poet, an editor, and as well as the literary critic. So in every branches of literature, he made his very permanent footprint, so to say. But out of all these things, he is best known for his short stories and poems. And he gets the credit for inventing detective stories, and he gave the another name of the detective fiction. Now, Edgar Allan Poe really showed what can be done with this particular form, the detective fiction. His short stories can be divided into variety of genres. The three genres that we have. The first one is the horror fiction or the gothic fiction. The second one is the science fiction. You have earlier in your Madhyamik section and HS section, perhaps you have gone through so many science fiction. And the three genres we are talking about, the first one is the horror fiction, second one is the science fiction, and the third one is the detective fiction. And for this detective fiction, Edgar Allan Poe has termed the detective fiction as the tale of ratiocination. This particular term, the tales of ratiocination, is invented by Edgar Allan Poe himself. And it basically refers to the detective fiction. And throughout his lifetime, he has written a total number of 66 short stories and 70 poems and some essays. Now, what is interesting to note about Edgar Allan Poe's Tales of Ratiocination is that a particular story and clues presented by the writer, and the clues or the hints that are presented by the writer is not just for the detective but for the reader as well. And he very interestingly engages the reader in the story, and clues are available for both the readers and the detective to solve. And Poe is one person who has developed many standard features for the detective fiction. Poe had published three groundbreaking stories with his character C. August Dupin, and he is the lead detective in Edgar Allan Poe's three famous and well-known short stories. And the famous detective of Arthur Conan Doyle, the Sherlock Holmes, with whom most of us are familiar with that particular series, was also modeled on Dupin, and Doyle has credited the character of Sherlock Holmes based on the character of Dupin. Dupin had featured in the Murders in the Raw Morgue and Mystery of Mary Roget. But coming to the story that is prescribed in your syllabus, the Purloined letter, now we have to know about the meaning of this very particular word purloined. The meaning of the word purloined is stolen. The story is all about a stolen letter and how the detective solved the crime of a stolen letter. That is the main part of this particular story. And this was, the third story of the series. And the story Purloined later was published in a magazine called The Gift, a Christmas and New Year's present for 1845, and which was published in the year 1844 in the December edition. And the Purloined letter is known to be the finest work of the self-invented genre which is called as tales of ratiocination, or you may say the detective fiction of Edgar Allan Poe. There are certain reasons behind it. Poe employs most effectively the principle of ratiocination, and he solves a problem very logically. It is believed that the character of Dupin was based on the French police chief Eugenie Francois Vidocq. In most of the tales of detective fiction, we find there is the presence of three unequal figures. Two are central to the template of the detective fiction, and the first of these is the detective, second is the narrator and the detective aid, you may say, and the third is the client, which could be the private individual or could be the police personnel. And the narrator, we find, is stand in for the readers, who leads the readers through a crime scene, and he is the person who reports everything that he sees. He shares the insights about the detective and so on, with actually solving the crime. And he's basically supplementing the role of reader. The detective is the prime example of superior intellect. In this case, we have the detective see August Dupin, who not only sees just as the narrator does, but observes, interprets, and ultimately solves the crime. And the client is one who brings to the attention of the detective and the strange and peculiar problem that bring the detective out from his world of contemplation, world of imagination into the world of action. So he comes up with a problem to the detective so he can solve it. So Dupin solved the crime by following the criminal's mind in the same fashion as he reads his friend or the narrator's mind. So with this, this first online lecture comes to an end. In the second lecture, we'll discuss about the summary of the story of the Purloined letter, and in that way we will continue our discussion. So thank you very much for your patience to hear me out today. Thank you.